Get your hands off my laptop! Amara's voice cut through the restaurant kitchen as the security guard yanked away her computer. The billionaire loomed over her, eyes narrowed. Arrest her. She's stealing Tech Fusion's security protocols, Alexander Pierce commanded, silencing the room. But instead of fear, a smile crossed Amara's face. What does a black waitress coding during her break know that a tech titan doesn't? Why is Pierce so threatened by what's on her screen? In the next 72 hours, this confrontation will explode into a battle that exposes Silicon Valley's biggest blind spot and threatens a billion-dollar launch. The code on her screen could save his company if his ego lets her prove it. Amara Williams wakes up at 4:30 a.m. every morning. Not because her shift at Emerson's, the upscale restaurant across from Tech Fusion headquarters, starts early, but because these pre-dawn hours are the only time she has to code before her younger siblings need breakfast and rides to school. This morning is no different. Her fingers fly across the keyboard, working on an authentication system she's been refining for months. 3 monitors surround her in the tiny corner of her bedroom she's converted into a makeshift coding station. One displays documentation, another shows her IDE with elegant lines of code, and the third runs tests against potential security exploits. Amara! Tyler needs his permission slip signed. Her mother's voice, weaker than it used to be, calls from the kitchen. Coming, Mom! She saves her work, pushes back from her desk, and heads to help with the morning chaos. By 7 a.m., she's made breakfast, packed lunches, signed school forms, and dropped her siblings at school. Her mother's medical appointment is next week, another specialist, another bill. The scholarship application for the computer science program sits half completed on her desk. It represents her best chance at a formal education, the credential the tech industry seems to worship above actual skill. When Amara arrives at Emerson's, she slips her laptop into her locker. Restaurant policy forbids personal devices during shifts, but most servers break this rule during breaks. The manager pretends not to notice as long as tables are served promptly. Morning, Amara, calls Darius, the head chef. The Tech Fusion crowd has a big reservation today. Pierce himself is coming. Launch week? Amara asks, tying her apron. Darius raises an eyebrow. How'd you know that? She shrugs. I follow tech news. What she doesn't say is that she's studied every public repository Tech Fusion has ever released. She's even anonymously contributed bug fixes to their open-source projects. While other waitresses complain about the tech executives' poor tipping habits, Amara sees them as her future colleagues. Or at least she would if any company would look past her lack of credentials to see her talent. By noon, the restaurant fills with Tech Fusion employees in their branded hoodies and sneakers. Amara serves them efficiently, catching snippets of conversation about the upcoming product launch. Something about revolutionary security protocols for a new consumer product. Something with vulnerabilities they're still struggling to patch. Table 7 needs more sparkling water, her co-worker Lisa reminds her. On it. Amara delivers the water, then checks her watch. Break time. With the kitchen in post-lunch lull, she retrieves her laptop from her locker and finds a quiet corner near the prep station. Opening her project, she continues working on her authentication system. What the Tech Fusion engineers don't realize is that their security approach has a fundamental flaw, one she identified weeks ago by analyzing their public APIs. Her solution is elegant, using a zero-knowledge proof system that would make their product virtually unhackable. If only someone would look at her work. If only she had that degree. If only she hadn't been rejected from 17 entry-level coding positions despite her impressive GitHub portfolio. You taking that extra shift tomorrow? Lisa asks, passing by with a tray of desserts. Amara nods. Mom's treatment isn't going to pay for itself. She's about to close her laptop when she overhears the manager's voice. Mr. Pierce, would you like to see our kitchen? We've recently renovated. Amara's head snaps up. The CEO of Tech Fusion is walking toward the kitchen, surrounded by an entourage of executives and the fawning restaurant manager. She should put her laptop away. She knows this, but she's just reached a critical point in her code, and if she stops now, she'll lose her train of thought. Just one more minute. They probably won't even notice her. Little did she know that taking this extra break, extending these few precious minutes of coding time, would change her life forever. The billionaire who was about to walk through that door would either destroy her future or open doors she'd been knocking on for years. What Alexander Pierce would see on her screen was about to trigger a chain of events that neither of them could have predicted. Would it be recognized as brilliance or mistaken as theft? Alexander Pierce walks through the kitchen like he owns it. At 52, with salt and pepper hair and a custom suit that costs more than Amara's monthly rent, he exudes the confidence of a man accustomed to power. The restaurant staff straightens postures, puts on smiles. Everyone except Amara, who's too absorbed in her code to notice the approaching storm. "And here's where we prepare our signature seafood dishes," the manager explains, gesturing toward the prep station. Pierce nods absently, his attention already drifting, until his gaze lands on Amara's laptop screen. He stops mid-stride. His expression shifts from polite boredom to intense focus in an instant. "What is that?" he demands, pointing at her screen. Amara looks up, startled. "I'm sorry?" "That code. What are you doing with it?" Pierce's voice rises, drawing attention from the kitchen staff. Amara turns her laptop slightly away, instinctively protective of her work. "It's just a personal project. I'm on break." Pierce steps closer, eyes narrowed. "That's our authentication protocol." He turns to his entourage. "She's looking at our security code." "Sir, I don't work for Tech Fusion," Amara explains, keeping her voice steady despite the adrenaline now coursing through her veins. "This is my own work. Our unreleased security protocol just happens to be on a waitress's laptop?" Pierce's tone drips with disbelief. "Carlos, call security." The restaurant manager rushes to Amara's side. "Miss Williams, what's going on?" "Nothing. This is my own code. I'm a programmer." "She's a hacker," Pierce interrupts, "and she has access to proprietary Tech Fusion software that hasn't been released yet." Two security guards' Tech Fusions, not the restaurants, materialize beside Pierce. One of them reaches for Amara's laptop. "Wait," Amara pulls back. "You can't just take my property." "Everything I've created is on this computer." "Created? Or stolen?" Pierce's voice is ice. "Our product launches in 72 hours and suddenly a waitress across the street has our security code? Do you think I'm an idiot?" The guard seizes her laptop, snapping it shut. Amara stands, heart pounding. "Sir, please. I can explain the code. I can prove it's mine." The restaurant manager steps between them. "Mr. Pierce, I'm sure there's an explanation." "Yes, there is," Pierce cuts him off. "Industrial espionage, and your employee is involved." He turns to Amara. "Who are you working for?" "Oracle? Microsoft?" "No one." I taught myself to code. "This is my own authentication system based on zero-knowledge proofs. It might look similar to yours because we're solving similar problems, but—" "Save it for the lawyers," Pierce interrupts. "If what you're saying is true, you'll have documentation, previous versions, commit history. If not—" He lets the threat hang in the air. The restaurant manager's face pales. "Amara, go to my office, now." He turns to Pierce. "Sir, I assure you, we had no knowledge." "I want her background checked," Pierce demands. "And I want to know how long she's worked here, directly across from our headquarters." Amara's hands shake as she unties her apron. "Mr. Pierce, I'm applying for a computer science scholarship. I support my mother and siblings. I would never—" "The scholarship committee will be very interested to hear about this incident," Pierce says coldly, "as will every tech company in the valley." The accusation hits Amara like a physical blow. With that single threat, her scholarship, her future, and her family's security are all at risk. Everything she's worked for the early mornings, the self-teaching, the rejection letters, the double shifts, all of it could be erased by this man's assumption. "Take her details," Pierce instructs his head of security. "If this turns out to be what I think it is, we'll involve the authorities." As Amara walks to the manager's office, whispers follow her. Co-workers who've known her for years suddenly look at her with suspicion. How could a waitress know how to code at that level? It must be stolen. She must be lying. In the manager's silent office, Amara sits alone, staring at her hands. Her laptop containing every project, every line of code she's written over the past 4 years, is now in the possession of Tech Fusion Security. Her portfolio, her proof, her future, all of it gone in an instant. Her phone buzzes with a text from her mother. "Will you be home for dinner?" "Tyler has his science presentation tonight." Amara closes her eyes. How will she explain this? How will she pay next month's rent, let alone her mother's medical bills? Outside the office, she hears the manager. "Unpaid leave, pending investigation." Why would the CEO of Tech Fusion think a waitress would hack his company? And why did he recognize her code so quickly? What Amara doesn't know is that her solution addresses the exact vulnerability keeping Alexander Pierce awake at night, a flaw that could derail the most important product launch in his company's history. The Tech Fusion security team huddles around a conference table, Amara's laptop open before them. Thomas Wells, the 45-year-old head of security, stands at the head of the table, arms crossed. His expression darkens as the team explores the contents of Amara's computer. "What have we got?" Wells demands. A security analyst named Raj looks up, confusion evident on his face. "Sir, this isn't what we expected." Meaning, "There's no evidence she's hacked our systems. No Tech Fusion code, no stolen credentials, no attempt to access our network." Raj turns the laptop so Wells can see the screen. "What she has is impressive." Wells leans forward, frowning. "Show me." Raj navigates through folders of meticulously organized code projects. She's built a complete authentication system from scratch, multiple iterations, documented changes, test suites, all her own work. Another analyst chimes in. Her GitHub history goes back 4 years, consistent commits, clear progression of skill. This isn't stolen work. That doesn't explain why Pierce recognized it, Wells counters. Actually, it might. Raj pulls up a side-by-side comparison. Her approach uses a similar zero-knowledge proof system to what we're developing, but hers is... He hesitates. Hers is what? Wells demands. More elegant. More secure. She's solved problems our team has been stuck on for weeks. A tense silence falls over the room. The security team exchanges glances, clearly uncomfortable with their findings. "Get Pierce in here," Wells finally orders, "and bring in the girl." 30 minutes later, Amara sits across from Alexander Pierce in Tech Fusion's glass-walled conference room. Despite her rumpled waitress uniform and the exhaustion etched on her face, she holds her head high. "Explain," Pierce demands without preamble. Amara takes a deep breath. "I taught myself to code 4 years ago when my mother got sick. I needed a flexible career that paid well. I started with basic web development, then moved to back-end systems, then security protocols. And the authentication system? The one that looks remarkably similar to our proprietary technology? I built it from first principles. Zero-knowledge proofs are the most secure approach for this type of authentication challenge. Any competent security engineer would arrive at a similar solution." Pierce's eyes narrow. "You expect me to believe a self-taught waitress independently developed an authentication system that our team of Stanford and MIT graduates has spent months perfecting?" "Yes." Amara doesn't flinch. "Because formal education doesn't equal talent or determination." Raj clears his throat. Sir, she's telling the truth. Look at her commit history. He turns the laptop toward Pierce. The first version of this system was pushed to her private repository 6 months ago. That's before our project even began. Pierce studies the screen, his expression unreadable. There's more, Raj continues. She's built other security tools. An encryption system for medical records, that's what she started with when her mother got sick. A vulnerability scanner that's more efficient than commercial options. Even a secure messaging platform. The security analyst's eyebrows rise higher with each project he opens. This authentication system is more elegant than what we use. He turns to Pierce. Sir, either she's telling the truth, or she's the best hacker I've ever seen. Pierce leans back, reassessing Amara with new eyes. Where did you learn all this? Online courses at first, then textbooks from the library, Stack Overflow, open source projects. I reverse engineered systems to understand how they work. I contribute to developer forums. Amara's voice grows stronger. I've applied for 17 entry-level positions in the past year. None would interview me because I don't have a degree. For the first time, uncertainty flickers across Pierce's face. If what you're saying is true, why work as a waitress? These skills are in demand. Try getting an interview without credentials, without connections, without the right background. Amara holds his gaze. The restaurant pays my bills while I apply for a computer science scholarship. My mother's medical costs don't wait for the industry to recognize self-taught talent. Wells clears his throat. Sir, there's something you should know. He gestures to Raj. Raj pulls up another screen. Her authentication approach might solve our current security issue, the one that's holding up the launch. Pierce's attention snaps back to the laptop. Explain. As Raj outlines the technical details, Pierce's expression shifts from skepticism to intense interest. The vulnerability in TechFusion's upcoming product, the flaw their team has been scrambling to fix before the launch in 72 hours, might be addressed by Amara's solution. This could work, Pierce admits grudgingly. He turns to Amara. How did you identify this vulnerability? Our API documentation doesn't expose these details. I studied similar authentication systems, looked for common weaknesses, applied first principles. Amara leans forward. Mr. Pierce, I didn't hack your company, but I did build something that might help it. A tense silence fills the room. Pierce studies Amara, weighing options, recalculating. Wells whispers something in Pierce's ear. The CEO nods, then addresses Amara. We have a situation. Our product launches in 72 hours. It has a security vulnerability that, if exploited, could compromise user data. Our team has been unable to fix it. Pierce's admission clearly costs him. Your solution might work, but we need to verify you didn't obtain this knowledge illegally. How? Amara asks. A test. Pierce stands. If you can replicate your solution, explain every component, and demonstrate it wasn't derived from our code, we'll discuss compensation instead of litigation. And my laptop? My job? You'll get your computer back after we verify its contents. As for your job, Pierce shrugs. That's between you and your employer. As Amara considers the offer, Wells pulls Pierce aside. Their hushed conversation grows heated. Wells gestures emphatically, clearly disagreeing with Pierce's approach. When they return, Pierce's expression has hardened. One more thing. We've discovered the restaurant's security footage from today is missing. Convenient timing. I had nothing to do with that, Amara protests. Perhaps. Pierce doesn't sound convinced. We'll proceed with the verification. But understand this. If we find any evidence you've accessed our systems, stolen our intellectual property, or tampered with evidence, we won't hesitate to pursue all legal options. What Pierce doesn't say, what Amara can't know, is that the success of Tech Fusion's launch rests entirely on fixing this security flaw. Billions in investment, thousands of jobs, and Pierce's own reputation hang in the balance. If her solution works, it would save the company. If she's lying, it could destroy it. What they found on her laptop was far more impressive than any hack. But the true test of Amara's abilities and her integrity was just beginning. Night falls as Amara waits in a sterile conference room at Tech Fusion headquarters. Her phone buzzes with texts from her siblings. "Where are you?" "Mom's worried." "Are you coming to my presentation?" Each message twists the knot in her stomach tighter. The door opens. Thomas Wells enters with 2 security analysts. No Pierce. "Where's Mr. Pierce?" Amara asks. "Handling the crisis you've created," Wells answers coldly. He drops a folder on the table. "We've been investigating you, Ms. Williams." Amara straightens. "And?" "You've been working at Emerson's for 14 months, directly across from our headquarters. You take the same shifts when our engineering team has their weekly lunches. You've been photographed near our building on weekends." "I take the bus that stops outside your building," Amara explains. "And I work lunch shifts because they pay better." Wells ignores her. "The restaurant security footage from the time you were coding is missing, deleted just after the incident." "I had nothing to do with that." "Really? Because you seem quite capable with computers." Wells's smile doesn't reach his eyes. "Your code looks remarkably similar to our proprietary system, a system worth billions. Similar approaches yield similar results." That's how computer science works. That's one explanation. Wells opens the folder. "Here's another. Corporate espionage. You positioned yourself near our headquarters, gathered information from overheard conversations, maybe even accessed our network when employees used the restaurant's Wi-Fi." Amara's hands clench under the table. "That's ridiculous." "Is it? How does a waitress with no formal training develop security protocols that our best engineers struggle with?" Wells leans forward. "Who are you working for? Which competitor paid you?" "No one," I taught myself. "I've documented my learning process for years." Conveniently, Wells slides a document across the table. "The scholarship committee has been notified of the incident. They're reconsidering your application." The room spins. That scholarship was Amara's only path to legitimacy in the tech world, her chance to finally get the credential that would open doors. "Your manager has placed you on unpaid leave pending our investigation." Wells continues, twisting the knife. "And your mother's treatment is scheduled for next month, correct? The experimental therapy not covered by insurance?" Amara's blood runs cold. "How do you know about my mother?" "We're very thorough, Ms. Williams." Wells sits back. "Here's your situation. No job, no scholarship, no income for your mother's treatment, and potential legal charges that would end any hope of a tech career." The walls close in. Everything Amara has worked for crumbles before her eyes. "But there's another option." Wells slides a second document forward, confession and cooperation. "And confess to something I didn't do. Admit you accessed Tech Fusion information improperly. Sign an NDA. Tell us who else was involved. In return, we don't press charges. We might even help with your mother's medical bills." The offer dangles before her. Safety, security, medical care for her mother. All she has to do is lie. "I won't confess to corporate espionage I didn't commit," Amara says firmly. "Then prove your innocence." Wells checks his watch. "Pierce has agreed to a verification test. You have 48 hours to demonstrate you created this authentication system independently. If you can't, we involve the authorities." "How can I prove a negative? How can I prove I didn't steal something?" "That's your problem." Wells stands. "You'll work in a secure room. No internet access, no phone. Just you and a clean computer. Recreate your solution from scratch. And if I succeed, then we'll talk. Wells moves toward the door, then pauses. One more thing. The launch is in 48 hours. If your solution doesn't work, or if it compromises our system. He lets the implication hang. After Wells leaves, Amara sits alone, the reality of her situation sinking in. No job, no scholarship, no computer, no way to contact her family, and 48 hours to recreate months of work or face potential criminal charges. Her phone buzzes one last time before security confiscates it. A message from her mother. Tyler's presentation went well. He missed you. Everything okay? Amara has no answer. In a glass-walled office upstairs, Wells updates Pierce. She refused to confess, Wells reports. Insists she developed the system independently. Pierce studies the code on his screen. And if she did? Impossible. No self-taught programmer could create this. But if she did, Pierce persists, it would solve our launch problem. Wells frowns. Sir, we should be looking for the real source of the leak, not wasting time on this Waitress. You've been pushing to hire external security consultants for months, Pierce observes. Is that clouding your judgment? With respect, sir, I've been pushing for experts with proven credentials, not restaurant staff with convenient solutions. Pierce considers this. Set up the verification test, 48 hours. If she fails, pursue your investigation your way. As Wells leaves, Pierce returns to Amara's code. Something about it nags at him, not just its elegance, but its familiarity. Like he's seen aspects of it before but can't place where. With security footage mysteriously missing and her laptop confiscated, Amara had just 48 hours to prove her innocence. The head of security smiled as he told her she'd never work in tech now. But he'd underestimated one crucial fact. Creating this code once had been a challenge. Recreating it would be a revelation. Morning light filters through the windows of the secure development room where Amara has spent the night. Her eyes burn from staring at the screen. 12 hours into the challenge, her fingers fly across the keyboard as she reconstructs her authentication system from memory. A security guard brings coffee and a sandwich, watching her with suspicion as if she might somehow hack Tech Fusion through the offline computer provided for her test. Thanks, Amara says, not looking up from her work. As the guard leaves, Amara stretches her cramped shoulders. The code flows naturally. This is her creation, after all, but the pressure is immense. One mistake, one deviation from her original design, and Wells could claim inconsistency as proof of guilt. The door opens again. Expecting the guard, Amara doesn't look up until a female voice speaks. You're implementing a Fiat Shamir transformation here. Amara's head snaps up. A woman in her mid-30s with sharp eyes and a Tech Fusion employee badge stands in the doorway, studying her screen. I'm not supposed to have visitors, Amara says cautiously. I'm Dr. Samantha Taylor, lead engineer. The woman closes the door. And I requested access because something about your case doesn't add up. Amara's fingers hover over the keyboard. What do you mean? This authentication system. Dr. Taylor gestures at the screen. Wells claims you stole it, but the timestamp on your GitHub repository predates our project by months. Amara blinks. You checked my GitHub? After Pierce described your work, I got curious. The security team isolated your laptop, but your online footprint is still accessible. Dr. Taylor pulls up a chair. You're Night Owl 92 on GitHub, aren't you? Amara nods slowly. I recognized your coding style immediately, Dr. Taylor says. You contributed patches to our back-end systems last year through our open source portal. Those fixes saved us from a major security issue, but Pierce never knew they came from an external contributor. That was just a hobby project. That prevented a data breach. Dr. Taylor leans forward. Why didn't you apply to work here? I did. 3 times. Never got past the automated resume screening without a degree. Dr. Taylor's expression darkens. Of course. She studies Amara's current work. Your solution to our authentication problem is elegant. Better than what our team developed. Then why am I being treated like a criminal? Politics. Dr. Taylor lowers her voice. Wells has been fighting to hire external security consultants. Pierce insists on promoting from within. Your existence threatens both their positions. Amara absorbs this. The missing security footage. Deleted by someone inside Tech Fusion, Dr. Taylor confirms. I traced the access logs. Someone doesn't want you proven innocent. Why are you telling me this? Why help me? Dr. Taylor's professional demeanor cracks slightly. Because I've been where you are. Fighting to be taken seriously without the right pedigree or connections. Because talent should matter more than credentials. She straightens. And because our product launch will fail without a solution to this security vulnerability. How bad is it? Catastrophic. The flaw could expose data of 50 million users at launch. Our team has been stuck for weeks. Wells wants to delay, but Pierce refuses. Market positioning, investor expectations, the pressure is enormous. Amara processes this revelation. That's why Pierce recognized my code. He's been reviewing every potential solution. Exactly. Dr. Taylor checks her watch. I can't stay long. Wells monitors these rooms. She slides a flash drive across the table. This contains documentation about our system architecture. It might help you optimize your solution for our implementation. Isn't that illegal? It's publicly available information, just not easily accessible. Nothing proprietary. Dr. Taylor stands. Complete your proof of concept. I'll make sure the right people see it. Why risk your position for me? Because Tech Fusion needs your solution. And because the next generation of engineers shouldn't face the same barriers I did. Dr. Taylor moves to the door, then pauses. One more thing. The verification test won't be fair. Wells will set you up to fail. What should I do? Build something they can't ignore. Something so brilliant it silences all questions about where it came from. Dr. Taylor's expression hardens. And prepare for the real test. If your solution works, Pierce will offer you a contract that takes all rights to your work without fair compensation or recognition. I just want to clear my name. Aim higher. Dr. Taylor opens the door. This industry needs disruption. Your code could force Tech Fusion to recognize talent wherever it appears, even in a restaurant kitchen. After Dr. Taylor leaves, Amara stares at the flash drive. An ally inside Tech Fusion changes everything. But it also raises the stakes dramatically. This isn't just about proving her innocence anymore. It's about changing a system that overlooks brilliant minds without the right credentials. The email from inside Tech Fusion contained exactly what she needed to prove her case. With renewed determination, Amara dives back into her code. The solution forming under her fingers isn't just an authentication system, it's her declaration of worth in an industry that's refused to see her. Someone believed her, but was it enough to challenge the CEO's accusations? With the product launch now only 36 hours away and millions of users' data at risk, Amara's verification test had transformed into something far more significant. A chance to prove that true innovation can come from anywhere, even from a waitress coding during her break. The conference room falls silent as Amara enters. Around the massive table sit Tech Fusion's senior engineering team, Thomas Wells and Alexander Pierce. Dr. Taylor stands near the back wall, her expression carefully neutral. Ms. Williams, Pierce gestures to a workstation at the front of the room. Your verification test begins now. Amara scans the room, cataloging the mix of skepticism, curiosity, and outright hostility on the faces watching her. Wells smirks from his position at Pierce's right hand. Before we start, Wells announces, we've adjusted the parameters of the test. Given the importance of our product launch tomorrow, we need to ensure any solution is bulletproof. He slides a document across the table. These are the security requirements your system must meet. Amara reviews the specifications, her heart sinking. These parameters are significantly more complex than what she'd prepared for, deliberately so. The authentication challenges listed would require fundamental changes to her approach. This isn't what we agreed to, she protests. Security requirements evolve, Wells replies smoothly. Surely a programmer of your caliber can adapt. Dr. Taylor catches Amara's eye and gives an almost imperceptible nod. This was exactly what she'd warned about. You have 4 hours, Pierce declares. If your solution meets these requirements and proves to be your original work, your name will be cleared. If not, he leaves the consequence unstated. One question, Amara says, taking her seat at the workstation. When did you add these new requirements? Wells shifts uncomfortably. Recently. This morning? Amara presses. After you learned I was rebuilding my solution successfully? Pierce glances sharply at Wells, who avoids his gaze. The parameters are what they are, Pierce says firmly. Begin. The room is oppressively quiet as Amara studies the requirements. The engineers watch her like scientists observing a lab specimen. The only sounds are the soft clicking of her keyboard and occasional whispers among the observers. She can't possibly meet these specifications, one engineer mutters. Not without access to our proprietary systems, another agrees. But Amara tunes them out, entering a state of deep focus. The challenge before her isn't just technical, it's strategic. Wells designed these requirements to be impossible for anyone but a Tech Fusion insider. But his trap contains a fatal flaw. It assumes she approaches problems the same way their team does. An hour passes, then 2. Engineers who expected quick failure grow restless as Amara methodically builds her solution from the ground up. Instead of trying to retrofit her existing authentication system to meet the new requirements, she's creating something new that makes those requirements irrelevant. 3 hours in, Amara speaks for the first time since starting. This authentication protocol has a fundamental weakness, she explains, never breaking her rhythm. I'm implementing a zero-knowledge proof system instead. The CTO's jaw literally drops. She narrates as she works, explaining each component, each design choice. Not because she needs to, but because she wants everyone in the room to understand exactly what she's creating. Traditional authentication systems verify credentials by checking them against stored values, Amara explains. But that creates a security vulnerability. If your database is compromised, so are all user credentials. My approach never stores the actual verification data. The engineers lean forward, their skepticism giving way to professional curiosity. Even Wells seems unsettled by the growing interest in her explanation. The flaw exists because Tech Fusion prioritized speed over security, Amara continues, her fingers flying across the keyboard. But users won't notice a 50-millisecond delay in authentication if it means their data remains secure. Pierce studies her intently. How did you learn to code like this? Amara doesn't look up from her screen. My mother got sick 4 years ago. She needed a way to track her medications, symptoms, and test results across different doctors. No existing app had the privacy features she needed, so I built one. Self-taught, Pierce presses. When something matters enough, you find a way to learn. Amara pulls up a testing framework. I'm ready to demonstrate. The room tenses as she initiates a series of security tests against her authentication system. Each potential exploit, each attack vector fails to penetrate her solution. The display shows real-time results 100% secure across all test cases. Impressive, the CTO admits. But does it meet our performance requirements? Better. Amara pulls up a benchmark comparison. It's 23% faster than your current implementation while providing stronger security guarantees. Wells interrupts. This proves nothing about whether she stole our... It proves everything, Dr. Taylor steps forward. I've been monitoring her GitHub repositories for months. This approach evolved naturally from her previous work. The timestamps and commit history form a clear progression that predates our project. With the entire executive team watching, Amara opens a new terminal window. While building this authentication system, I identified 3 additional vulnerabilities in your current implementation. She types a command, displaying a security scan of TechFusion's public-facing APIs. These weaknesses could be exploited regardless of how strong your main authentication protocol is. The engineering team murmurs in alarm as they recognize the legitimate vulnerabilities. She's identified issues they'd missed entirely. That's enough, Wells cuts in. This demonstration is over. No, Pierce countermands. Continue, Ms. Williams. With calm precision, Amara outlines solutions for each vulnerability. Her approach isn't just a patch, it's a complete reimagining of how the system should work. As she explains the final component, the room has grown so quiet you could hear a pin drop. The security challenge was designed to be impossible, exactly what she needed to show them who she really was. 4 hours after she began, Amara stands before a room of TechFusion's top engineers, who now view her not as a waitress or a hacker, but as something far more threatening to the status quo, a peer who had been serving their coffee. Verification test completed, Pierce announces, breaking the stunned silence that follows Amara's demonstration. We'll need to evaluate the results. There's nothing to evaluate, Wells objects. We still have no proof she didn't obtain proprietary information. I believe I can help with that assessment, a new voice interrupts. All heads turn toward the doorway where an older man stands. Tall and distinguished with silver hair and penetrating eyes, he carries himself with quiet authority. Dr. Morrison, Pierce rises, surprise evident in his voice. I didn't realize you were joining us. I invited him, Dr. Taylor explains. Given the significance of this security solution, I thought an independent expert assessment would be valuable. Wells pales visibly. This wasn't authorized. I authorized it, Pierce cuts him off, then addresses the newcomer. Dr. James Morrison, for those who don't know, is the former chief security architect at the National Security Agency and currently the most respected independent security consultant in the industry. Dr. Morrison approaches Amara's workstation, studying her code with practiced eyes. May I? He asks, gesturing to the keyboard. Amara nods, stepping aside. For several minutes, Morrison navigates through her solution, occasionally nodding or making small sounds of approval. The room remains silent, all eyes fixed on the legendary security expert as he evaluates her work. Finally, he straightens and turns to face the room. In 20 years of security consulting, Dr. Morrison announces to the assembled executives, I've never seen someone solve this level of encryption challenge this elegantly, and certainly not in under 2 hours. Wells attempts to interject, but Morrison raises a hand, silencing him. The architecture of this solution shows a distinctive personal style that's consistent throughout. The coding patterns, the commenting structure, the problem-solving approach, they form a coherent signature as unique as handwriting. He turns to Pierce. You asked if this could have been stolen from TechFusion. I can state unequivocally that it was not. In fact, he gestures to the screen, this solution contains innovations your team hasn't implemented yet. The CTO leans forward. How can you be so certain? Because I've reviewed TechFusion's security architecture as part of my consulting work with other firms, Morrison explains. This approach is fundamentally different and, frankly, superior in several key aspects. He turns to Amara. May I ask where you studied cryptography? I didn't formally, Amara admits. I worked through Stanford's OpenCourseware, then MIT's, participated in security challenge competitions online, read everything I could find. Morrison nods thoughtfully. Self-directed learning focused on practical application rather than theory. It shows in your approach. He addresses the room again. Ms. Williams hasn't just created an authentication system. She's developed a framework that could become an industry standard. The senior engineers exchange glances. many nodding in agreement. Even Pierce looks impressed. The value of this contribution, Morrison continues, conservatively estimated, would be in the range of $200 million in terms of protected revenue and brand security. Wells shifts uncomfortably. Dr. Morrison, with all due respect, you've only seen a demonstration in a controlled environment. I've tried to hire diverse candidates with unconventional backgrounds for years, Morrison interrupts, fixing Wells with a pointed stare. I've been consistently overruled by executives who believe innovation only comes from prestigious universities and established tech companies. He gestures to Amara. This is the talent we've been missing. Pierce studies Amara with new eyes. Dr. Morrison, your assessment is clear. What would you recommend? Implement her solution immediately for your product launch. Secure her intellectual property rights with fair compensation. And perhaps, Morrison adds with a slight smile, reconsider your hiring practices. A committee of senior engineers convenes quickly, reviewing the solution one final time. Their verdict is unanimous. Amara's authentication system not only meets their requirements, but exceeds them in ways their original approach couldn't. Pierce rises, straightening his jacket. Miss Williams, we need to talk. Wells attempts one last objection. Sir, there are still questions about the missing security footage. Yes, Pierce agrees, his voice suddenly cold. There certainly are. Questions you'll answer in my office later. Nobody had solved this problem in 2 years of trying until now. And as Amara follows Pierce to his private office, the power dynamic that began in a restaurant kitchen has shifted irrevocably. Cameras flash as Alexander Pierce takes the podium at TechFusion headquarters. Behind him stands a row of executives, including Dr. Taylor and, most surprisingly, Amara Williams, dressed not in a waitress uniform, but in professional attire. Today marks not just the launch of our most innovative product, Pierce begins, but also a moment of reckoning for TechFusion and the entire tech industry. The assembled press leans forward, sensing this is more than a standard product announcement. Our new secure platform launches with revolutionary authentication technology developed by our newest team member. Pierce gestures to Amara. Ms. Amara Williams, who joins us as Director of Security Innovation. Murmurs ripple through the audience as reporters frantically type notes. Ms. Williams' journey to TechFusion was unconventional. Pierce chooses his words carefully. Until yesterday, she was serving lunch at Emerson's restaurant across the street. The murmurs grow louder. TechFusion doesn't just owe you a job, Ms. Williams, Pierce announces, departing from his prepared remarks. We owe you a complete rethinking of how we identify talent, starting with our new Amara Williams Scholarship for Self-Taught Developers. Amara's composed expression breaks momentarily, revealing genuine surprise. This scholarship will provide education, mentorship, and career placement for individuals with exceptional skills, but without traditional credentials, Pierce continues. Because innovation doesn't care where you went to school or if you went at all. As Pierce outlines the scholarship details, Dr. Taylor steps forward to shake Amara's hand, cameras capturing the moment. The two women share a knowing look. This public recognition represents a hard-won victory for them both. After the press conference, Amara returns to Emerson's restaurant not as a server, but as a guest at a celebration dinner with her family. Her mother, healthier now with access to TechFusion's premium medical benefits, wipes away tears of pride. Her younger siblings stare wide-eyed at the restaurant they've heard about but never entered. Darius, the head chef, emerges from the kitchen to embrace her. Always knew you were too smart for this place, he says warmly. The restaurant manager, who had placed her on unpaid leave days earlier, hovers nervously nearby. Ms. Williams, we're so pleased to have you as a guest. Amara acknowledges him with a polite nod before turning back to her family. Across town, Thomas Wells clears out his office, demoted after an internal investigation, revealed he had ordered the deletion of the security footage in an attempt to strengthen the case against Amara. His crusade to hire external consultants and the commission fees he would have received now exposed as self-serving. In Tech Fusion's executive suite, Pierce reviews the product launch metrics with Dr. Taylor, now promoted to Chief Innovation Officer with a mandate to restructure the company's recruitment process. Sales are exceeding projections by 42%, Taylor reports. The security features are being highlighted in every major tech review. Pierce nods. And the talent identification program? Over 200 applications in the first 24 hours, Taylor confirms. We're finding programmers, security specialists, and designers in places we never thought to look. From the restaurant kitchen to the executive boardroom in 72 hours, Amara's journey had not only saved Tech Fusion's product launch, but triggered a fundamental shift in how the company, and perhaps the industry, would identify and nurture talent going forward. 1 year later, Amara stands at the podium of a Tech Fusion auditorium filled with new faces, the first cohort of the Amara Williams Scholarship Program. 50 self-taught developers from diverse backgrounds, selected for their exceptional talent rather than formal credentials, look back at her with a mixture of excitement and determination. When I was coding in the back of a restaurant kitchen, Amara begins, I never imagined I'd be standing here. Not because I doubted my abilities, but because the tech industry seemed determined to keep its doors closed to people like me. She gestures to the scholarship recipients. Each of you has a similar story. The delivery driver who built a machine learning algorithm between routes. The night security guard who developed a breakthrough in facial recognition. The home health aide who created a predictive care application for her patients. The screens behind her display statistics that tell a compelling story. 5 major tech companies have now adopted similar talent identification programs. Legislation promoting skills-based hiring practices is advancing in 3 states. Tech Fusion's security platform built on Amara's authentication system has become the industry standard, protecting over 200 million users worldwide. The moral of my story isn't about individual success, Amara continues. It's about the collective failure to recognize talent in unexpected places. For every person in this room, there are thousands of others whose brilliance goes unrecognized because they don't fit the narrow profile of what a tech professional should look like or where they should come from. Dr. Taylor, seated in the front row, nods in agreement. Beside her sits Dr. Morrison, who now chairs the Scholarship Selection Committee. True innovation doesn't care about your degree, your zip code, or your background, Amara says, her voice strengthening. It cares about your mind, your determination, and your unique perspective on solving problems. She turns to acknowledge Alexander Pierce, who sits off to the side. Real leadership isn't about protecting the status quo, it's about having the courage to change when change is needed. Pierce, humbled by the past year's transformation, accepts this assessment with a thoughtful nod. The tech industry loves to talk about disruption, Amara observes, but often resists being disrupted itself. Real disruption happens when we challenge our assumptions about where talent comes from and what it looks like. She looks out at the diverse faces before her people, who, like her, had been overlooked and underestimated. Today, you begin your formal education in computer science. But never forget the invaluable education you already have, the resourcefulness, the determination, the fresh perspective that comes from teaching yourself against all odds. Amara pauses, making eye contact with individual scholarship recipients. Talent doesn't always come with the right credentials, background, or connections. Sometimes it's serving your coffee, fixing your car, or cleaning your office. The question is, are we willing to see it? The audience rises in a standing ovation, led by the scholarship recipients whose lives have been forever changed by this recognition of their potential. In the back of the auditorium, a young woman in a waitress uniform slips in, listening intently. She clutches a notebook filled with code she's been teaching herself during breaks. Her eyes fill with determination as she watches Amara seeing, perhaps for the first time, a future that might be possible for her too. This is how change happens. Not all at once, but person by person, assumption by assumption, system by system, until what once seemed revolutionary becomes the new normal. If Amara's journey from waitress to tech executive inspired you, share this with someone who deserves recognition for their talents, and subscribe to Beat Stories for more narratives of justice restored and potential unleashed.